When I bought my house, I thought I was moving into a quiet suburban neighborhood. The community was pretty, the lawns manicured, and the neighbors seemed polite enough on the surface. What I didn't realize at the time was that I had stepped into the kingdom of one of the most notorious HOAs in the state. Within weeks, I discovered that this HOA ran the neighborhood like a miniature dictatorship. At first, it was small things. A letter about my garbage bins being visible for more than 2 hours after pickup, a warning that my grass was half an inch taller than their community standard. They even complained about the color of my flower pots, which were apparently too bright and unapproved. Still, I played along. I trimmed, I moved, I even repainted the pots. It wasn't worth the hassle, but the final straw came when the HOA fixated on the gate at the end of my long driveway. The gate battle. My property sits slightly apart from the other houses, with a long private driveway that connects to the main neighborhood road. The previous owner had installed a tall, sturdy gate not for decoration, but for security. I liked it. It gave me peace of mind, and it clearly marked where my land began. One day, I received a letter from the HOA. They demanded that I keep the gate open at all times for the convenience of the community. Their reasoning? Some residents wanted to use my driveway as a shortcut to avoid speed bumps and stop signs. I laughed when I first read it. Surely, they couldn't force me to let strangers drive through my property. But the HOA president, a man named Carl with a permanent frown and a love for clipboards, showed up at my door the next day to explain. "It's selfish," he said, wagging a finger at me. "The community voted, and it's clear that people would benefit if your driveway were open. You're part of this neighborhood, so you need to comply." I told him politely at first that my driveway was not a public road. It was mine. I paid taxes on it, maintained it, and wasn't about to let random cars race down it. Carl didn't like that answer. He left with the ominous words, "The HOA will be taking further action." Escalation. Within a week, I was bombarded with violation notices. They claimed my closed gate was an eyesore, that it was against the character of the neighborhood, and that it violated community accessibility standards. None of these things made sense, because the gate had been there long before I moved in. Then came the fines, $100 for non-compliance, then $200, then $500. They piled up quickly. I knew these weren't enforceable, but the HOA counted on intimidation and harassment to break people down. Neighbors I barely knew started giving me dirty looks. Some even yelled things like, "Open the road," when they saw me outside. It was ridiculous. All because I wanted privacy and security on my own property. That's when I decided to fight back, not just defensively, but offensively. The discovery. I started reading through my deed, property lines, and the neighborhood's history. I wanted to know exactly what authority the HOA thought they had. That's when I found something fascinating. The main road through the neighborhood, at the very road everyone drove on daily, wasn't owned by the HOA. It wasn't even owned by the county anymore. It had been sold years ago when the developer went bankrupt, and the rights to it had been floating in legal limbo. After some digging, and a few calls with a very curious real estate lawyer, I learned that the easement agreements were poorly written, and the actual ownership of the road could still be purchased at a broken bar for a price that was shockingly affordable given its importance. I realized something. If I bought that road, the same HOA that was bullying me would suddenly depend on my goodwill just to reach their own houses. The purchase. It took a few weeks of paperwork and a chunk of my savings, but eventually, it was done. The road was mine, legally, fully, undeniably mine. The residents had easements allowing access, of course, but that didn't mean I couldn't enforce reasonable rules or make their lives inconvenient if they continued to harass me. I didn't tell anyone right away. Instead, I waited for the next HOA meeting, where Carl and his cronies once again tried to shame me in front of everyone about my anti-community gate. That's when I dropped the bomb. The reveal. "Actually," I said, standing up, "I no longer feel the need to discuss my gate with you, because as of last month, I'm the owner of Maplewood Drive." The room went silent. Carl blinked. "That's impossible. The HOA owns the road." I pulled out the paperwork. "No, it doesn't. Here's the deed. I bought it, which means you should probably stop harassing me, unless you'd like me to consider some broken bar changes." Murmurs erupted around the room. Some people looked confused, others horrified. Carl's face turned red. He sputtered about easements and legal rights, but my lawyer, who I had brought along just in case, calmly explained that yes, the residents could still use the road, but I, as the owner, had broad authority to set conditions for maintenance, speed limits, and access. The HOA's power play had backfired spectacularly, closing the gate forever. The very next day, I locked my gate permanently. I sent the HOA a polite letter stating that, given the hostility I had faced, I no longer wished to participate in their community initiatives. My driveway was off limits, and any further attempts to find me would be considered harassment. As for the road, well, I didn't block it. I wasn't evil, but I did start enforcing rules. Speed limit strictly 15 miles per hour, no parking along the sides, and a small monthly maintenance fee billed directly to the HOA. After all, if they wanted smooth pavement, someone had to pay for the upkeep. Suddenly, the same neighbors who had shouted at me were begging me not to be too harsh. Even Carl had to swallow his pride and sign the first check to me, the man he had tried to bully into submission. The aftermath. Over time, things settled down. The HOA still existed, but their power over me was gone. They couldn't touch my gate, and they couldn't threaten me with fines. In fact, every month when they paid me for road maintenance, it felt like a small personal victory. Some neighbors even started quietly supporting me. They admitted they'd been too scared to stand up to the HOA before. Now that someone had put them in their place, the whole neighborhood felt a little freer. As for me, I enjoy driving through my locked gate every evening, knowing that I didn't just win against the HOA, I turned the tables completely. They wanted to control me, but now, in a twist of poetic justice, they all drive on a road I own. And I'll tell you this, the sound of that gate clicking shut behind me has never been sweeter.